The story starts in a shower, a place the average gamer is not familiar with. Kinji Ninomiya is our MC in this story. What pushes him every day is his determination to become a rich NEET, and unlike the rest of the people hustling every day just for the sake of it, our boy managed to pull it off by investing into stock markets and other real estate endeavors, till he became wealthy without ever having to work. However, Kinji soon learns good times never last when a portal suddenly transports him to another world with nothing but his underwear. Amoria is a fantasy world where the age of heroes is over and the dungeons they once explored are mined by modern corporations for demonite. And thus here we are, Kinji is forced to become a miner and listen to his boss's boss, Belza, make a dull speech about how working to death is good, so naturally an ex-pro NEET doesn't stand with such ideologies. But due to Kinji falling in enormous debts, he has no other option but to mine the dungeons and hear his supervisor whine about his performance. Also, to make things worse, the company demands the workers to do 16-hour shifts with no breaks in between or letting them shower more than once a month while making everyone sleep together. While damming his station, Kinji overhears a skeleton scolding a big, scaly fella for not being too bright. Report, remind, and review the 3R. The skeleton tells the lizard to memorize while kicking him on the nuts. Kinji loses interest in the convo after remembering he is broke as hell and only has 1 coin to buy a piece of bread, which he drops by mistake and starts chasing it like a man trying to catch his dreams, but alas, he falls short. That said, Kinji comes across something big during this event. Later at night, the main man invites Wanabe, a crocodile demi-human, to a fancy place, which makes Wanabe soz of the situation since the two get paid the same and can't afford the drinks, but Kinji tells him to relax since he took a loan and reveals his debt is 20 million. Hence, the next day the lads volunteer to prospect deeper in the dungeon where monsters are more dangerous, but demonite is plentiful. Kinji reveals to Wanabe that he discovered a secret entrance to the 3rd level. The lads use holy water to keep the monsters at bay while they mine the crystals. After finishing and filling their bags with crystals, the lads get attacked by a hungry dragon. Turns out the holy water was expired. Kinji uses Wanabe as bait to make a run for it. As the lizard man comes to terms with his end, Kinji appears again and makes a deal with the dragon, promising that if it guards them while they work, he will provide delicious food. Amused by this human, the dragon transforms into a loli named Rim. And for that day on, the party begins making huge profits, but Kinji despairs as his money goes toward feeding Rim and his debts increase. Kinji discovers a magician's staff left behind by a dead hero and uses it to hypnotize other miners into mining for him. Eventually, the staff breaks, and the miners awaken when Kinji is doing a dialogue only fit for a demon lord, so he gets severely punished. With our MC back at the bottom, Rim bites Kinji's bottom. Anyways, after such a stunt, Kinji's coworkers were understandably mad the next day, but the main man doesn't mind that. You see, Kinji and Wanabe got transferred into another division, the Dangerous Exploration Team. The company is the biggest in the land. With 3,000 employees, the corporation has many specialized branches from mining to research. One of the important branches in the company is the Exploration Branch, which hires elite teams to go down the dungeon and clear it for the miners to do their job. Kinji's team is under them. Their duty is to assist the elites by cleaning the dungeon, fixing the lights, and refilling some supplies. They're the lowest of the low. Yet Kinji's drive burns brighter than the darkest cave, unlike the pessimistic Wanabe, who gets caught in a trap. So to protect our eyes, Lord Kinji shoves a bag of potions on the monster. However, Wanabe still gets injured, so the higher-ups force Kinji to do his share of the work while getting his pay reduced till the potions he threw in the chest are covered. This leaves him with no money to feed Rim, therefore Kinji brings her trash to feast on, yet it doesn't stop her from taking a hidden piece of meat, which she takes. Later, Kinji tasks to go alone and refills some potions, and while doing so, Kinji runs into a self-entitled elite explorer who's fleeing from a swarm of monster ants. Thinking fast, Kinji jumps into the river and then goes back to the shop to inform the higher-ups about the situation. However, they don't care, the only thing they care about is him finishing his work. Luckily though, higher power smiles at Kinji and drops a transformation potion his way, which he uses to turn himself, along with the elite warrior and the equipment manager, into ants. That said, the lads are still stuck since their boss has sealed the mine. Kinji realizes while transformed he can understand the ants' language, and so his devilish mind starts working overtime upon seeing a worker ant collapsing. Like a true insurance merchant, the man starts talking non-stop as fast as he can, as dramatically as he can, introducing the concept of workers' rights to the worker ants. One by one, the ants followed Kinji, the Ant Whisperer, forming a union to demand the Ant Queen treat them better. It gets revealed the Ant Queen decided to expand her colony into the mine after Rim disappeared and stopped eating her workers. Kinji, along with his party now back in their human form, faces the Ant Queen trying to overtake her position as the leader, but she decides to simply kill and replace them. But then Rim appears after getting hungry. She chases the ants trying to eat them, so Kinji gives her his dinner to protect his new comrades. The queen is impressed Kinji can control Rim and has saved her from the terrifying Loli. Wanabe returns to work. Kinji tells him about what happened and how he took control of the Ant floor, finally revealing he plans to take over the Raizaha Mining Corporation and form his own Dungeon Black Company. The next day, we meet Shia, a modern hero employed by Raizaha Corporation, who located a Philosopher's Stone in a dungeon and is asked to join Exploration Group 3 to show them the Robs. The bussy hero gladly takes on the task, claiming she will work them to their limits, not knowing what's waiting for her. Meanwhile, on an island containing the corporate training center, the boys are forced to endure a pigman getting all close and personal with what I assume some serious stinky breath because he's obviously a pig. They also undertake brutal physical exercises like facing monster dogs and climbing mountains without food. Kinji got so tired he was about to eat plants that mess with the mind. Luckily, Wanabe was there to stop him from tripping. That said, the abuse counties on top of the mountain on a psychological level, while the group meditates and gets beaten by the pigmen. However, it seems the quote-unquote training is paying off as the group is becoming more and more obedient due to magical brainwashing methods used to increase loyalty to Raizaha. Incidentally, on the way home, the guy pumps into our boy, bringing him back to his senses. Likewise, he snaps Wanabe out of being brainwashed and reveals that he knew about the brainwashing the whole time and used the mind-altering plans from earlier to resist and plan revenge. Furthermore, Kinji also reveals he has drugged the brainwashing sorcerers with the confusion plants, leading them to set off bombs, destroying the island, the training center, and all the instructors with it. Now, believing they successfully brainwashed the lads, the corporation sends Kinji and Wanabe to Group 3, where Shia becomes their supervisor, who compliments the company and the way they treat their explorers by letting them shop in their fancy shops. Kinji tries to point out Raizaha's exploitation, but Shia, being totally loyal, doesn't buy it and forces him to accompany her into the dungeon to fight monsters. She puts him against a big boy that shows Kinji no regard and goes for the booba, so she fights him while our boy chills with an ant on top of a building. Shia tries to kill N.A., Kinji's favorite ant, so he summons Rim, who apparently ate way too much. The Loli transforms from her FBI trap form to illegal waifu form and easily knocks waifu number 2 out. With Shia captured, Kinji tells his boy to bring a camera and forces her to pose for photographs incriminating her as being friends with Rim and the Ant Queen. Using the pics, Kinji blackmails Shia into secretly working for his Dungeon Black Company. While heading back home, Kinji gets surrounded by a group of men leading him to a dark alley where his man Jules gets stepped on and crushed, just to send a message to repay 5 million gold within a month. Thus, the next day, when Shia is all fired up and ready to work her heart up, Kinji is down, contemplating his debt, prompting her to carry his sorry ass to work. After killing some monsters, Miss Booba tells Kinji that monster parts can be valuable, yet they are still not enough to earn him 5 million in 1 month. That said, Kinji then notices Wanabe's tail regenerated a day after the latter offered it to Rin when she was hungry. All this info lit a light bulb above our boy's head. Meanwhile, Belza, Raizaha's director, reveals Death March is approaching. A Death March is when all demonite and monsters regenerate, which is massively profitable and massively risky if things get out of hand. Back in the dungeon, Kinji builds a farm to harvest monster parts without killing them and pays the 5 million, all thanks to his brains and Rim's browns. However, as you know, after every high there is a low. Belza reveals Death March includes the resurrection of Majin, but this requires the sacrifice of a hero like Shia, who is enjoying her situation, fighting her way up to safety until the Majin attacked her. Waifu number 2 tries to save Kinji by teleporting him back to the surface, but the man refuses the way out and throws the magic crystal at it, teleporting Majin to the surface where it destroys the mine. As Majin tunnels back into the dungeon, trying to get back to its level and catch the hero, Kinji has the ants set traps while he sits on his throne like a boss. Sadly though, the plan fails and so plan B begins. Kinji ties the hero and they run towards the next location with the beast hot on their trail, leading it to a pit filled with highly flammable slime substance, making the Majin confused, and it starts attacking randomly. Seeing this, Shia insists on fighting it head-on, sacrificing herself to protect everyone, so Kinji pulls a calm down move, literally and figuratively. He scolds her for putting herself at risk trying to escape the reputation of her father, the king of failed adventures. Realizing he is right and she doesn't have to outdo her father, she decides to live for herself and kills Majin with a powerful attack, or so he thought. Majin revives and tries to eat Kinji, but Rim senses this and swoops in at the nick of time to save Kinji and eat the Majin. Rim reveals something about Majin's resurrection being unnatural. Kenji doesn't understand what she's talking about, so he gives it no regard. As the dynamic duo prepares to leave, a teleportation circle Kenji recognizes as the one that summoned him from Japan opens up beneath him and Rim. Kenji awakens in his penthouse laughing and brushing the previous events as nothing but a dream. That said, a part of him still misses the friends he made along the way. Speaking about friends, when our boy turns on the TV, he finds out that Rim is rampaging through the city, attacking the food stores and making her way to his building. People call Kenji asking him to come out as word has spread that the monster is looking for him, the same monster currently standing behind him, ready to eat his sweet candy ass. Suddenly, Kenji awakens again and finds Rim chewing on his shoes. To his relief, Ranga, a cute priestess, addresses our boy as Lord Messiah and asks him to save their world. Kenji starts questioning the cutie about where he is and what happened to his friends. Confused, the kid pulls out a manual and tries again to communicate better. Fed up, Kenji tells Rim to break the wall, only to find himself in an unfamiliar futuristic setting. An old man with a creepy smile enters the room. His name is Zazel, the leader of an underground human village living in a city created thousands of years ago by the advanced Colonian civilization. Zazel reveals 300 years ago, an evil corporation took over the world. Kenji realizes he is actually in Amoria 300 years in the future, and the evil corporation is Raizaha. Everyone in town grouped in anticipation for the arrival of their Lord Messiah, cheered for Kenji. However, the hero is still not interested in saving what he calls worthless, hot garbage who won't even help themselves. Hence, the old geezer pulls a gun on our boy and threatens Kenji into facing the demon lord. Yet still, Kenji refuses to do so until the old man speaks of a prophecy that after saving the world, a passage will open leading to Japan, which changes the main man's mind. And so, the dynamic duo gets some new drip and prepares to head out along with the cute priestess, who, by the way, turns out to be a he. Yes, you heard that right. What you are seeing here is a dude through and through. The townsfolk made him dress like a girl and treated him as such, since in the Book of Prophecies it was said a girl with magic will assist the Lord Messiah when he arrives. But since this boy was the only one able to use magic, they had to improvise. Upon arriving in a castle, Kenji learns it belongs to Demon Lord Belza's deputy, General Ant, whom Kenji realizes as his friend Aunt A, who has evolved into a powerful monster and is overjoyed to see Kenji. It gets revealed that far from exploiting humans, General Ant treats them fairly. They only ask that they work 40 hours a week while providing holidays and health insurance. The problem is, humans of the future are unreasonably lazy and believe 40 hours is too much work. Belza has not run the corporation in years, and General Ant doesn't know what to do. Deciding to help Kenji take over as General Minomiya, the group devise a plan to punish lazy workers and reward hard workers, making the company profitable again and also take over the underground city, replacing Zazel as the leader and forcing the citizens to return to work, which deserves them right, if I dare say so myself. Rangba is enjoying a hot spring all by their lonesome till Kenji arrives with Rim, who is not respecting bath etiquette. Likewise, three generals who snuck a camera into the bath discuss what to do with the Kenji situation and how to stop his climb through the ranks. After some arguing, Generals Ru, Power, and Zex decide to task Kenji with hard jobs so if he fails and doesn't get prompted. Power tasks the group to catch monsters that ran away from the demon army. Needless to say, it was an ambush that failed when Rim defeated the worms in a second. Next in the line is Ru. He tasks Kenji with turning a wasteland into a farm. It's an impossible task as the old geezer puts it, but luckily Kenji has the worm from earlier to cultivate the land. And finally, it's Zek's turn. Unlike his fellow generals, the four-eyed virgin decides to look up some info about his opponent. A smart move indeed, that said he doesn't find a thing. Instead, he finds some dirt on the lovely Ranga. And just like the creep he is, Zex goes to the bath in an attempt to blackmail her but becomes overcome with lust upon learning she is biologically male, knocking him off his feet, and then get knocked out like Teen Rocket by Rim Headbutt. After confronting them via their hidden camera, the three decide to put Kenji in charge of a truly impossible mission. Ranga wakes up in a version of Alice in Wonderland where white rabbits are slaves to the queen while unemployed moles live in internet cafes. It's a long, trippy sequence that Goofy Rabbit Kenji guides. Hence, let's fast forward to Queen Belza's arrival. She reveals Ranga's secret of being a descendant of Belza and offers to let the cutie live with her carefree. Goofy Kenji tries to get Ranga to agree, but the real Kenji appears and awakens Ranga with a headbutt. It gets revealed the generals sent them on a mission to defeat a robot that hypnotized Ranga, which is now destroyed. Kenji assures Ranga it is good she has her own goals separate from Belza, and that there is nothing wrong with running and making a strategic retreat as long as it's for the sake of a future victory. Having defeated the robot, Kenji gets invited to meet the Demon Lord, who surprises Kenji by asking him to save the world. The Demon Lord is the resurrected Majin, Rim's twin sister. She explains the Colonian civilization created dungeons and guardians like Rim to manage the flow of magic throughout the planet. But when Rim met Kenji and abandoned her dungeon, Raizaha was able to mine all the way to the bottom and use the advanced technology of the Colonian city beneath it to take over the world. Majin temporarily defeated Raizaha and became the Demon Lord. But Raizaha has returned, having turned their corporate slaves into robots to defeat Majin and turn the planet into a dystopia empty of biological life. Thus, she offers Kenji a choice: return to Japan or go back in time and stop Raizaha in the past. Kenji, having grown so much and endured lots of hardships so far, decides to choose to go back in time, so he can destroy the company responsible for his misery and take over the business life by winning a perfect revenge tale. And thus, Kenji returns to the dungeon just in time to save his friends. Later, he is welcomed by his co-workers who are glad to see him alive, but the fun times are put on pause when Kenji gets called to meet the woman in charge. Belza finds him 10 million gold, as well as singing his dorm to someone else for going missing for a month, forcing him, Rim, Ranga, and Wanabed to move into Shia's flat, where Kenji fills in the homies about what happened so far and what will happen in the future. But for now, the fun continues as the group goes for a company party to lift the workers' morale before they head to the more dangerous lower dungeons. Ranga mingles with some old geezers, while Rim eats super full and Kenji drinks to his limit. Therefore, it wasn't a huge surprise when the main man puked his guts out the next day while Shia scolded him as if they were a married couple. Also, Ranga scored a job thanks to the old geezer he was talking with, so they had to check it out along with Rim. Anyways, back to the house, when questioned about his ability to change the future, Kenji explains his plan while putting on the most trolled face possible. With my mind and your muscles, we will go to the bottom of the dungeon and reach the Colonian city before Belza, so I can capture their technology and take over the world first instead of Belza. However, Kenji soon learns the dungeon has become much more dangerous with tougher levels. Kenji then slits a casual, "I will manage to pay all my loans." So naturally, it didn't sit well with the party, and they start shit-talking him. Shia then tells him his level is 5. In other words, a slime can defeat him, so Shia puts on her glasses and does a fast outfit change, declaring his training camp will soon begin. The training was educational, as during a risky one, Kenji learns living beings can absorb natural mana and convert it into magic to boost physical abilities, something he cannot do as he is from a world without mana. This revelation not only makes him depressed for being the weakest person in this new world, but also makes him realize whatever he does, he's a complete outsider. He continues to spill his guts and emotions while drinking with his boy Wannabe, till he gets back to his intellectual state after getting all the pent-up emotions out. Later, while our boy tries to think how to progress with his lack of power, he gets distracted by the ruckus Ranga and Rim doing, so he shouts at them like a fed-up father, and then takes the broken gun he took from the future. Rem tries to eat it, but the gun glows and reactivates, having absorbed her mana. Realizing he has a powerful weapon to compensate for his physical weakness, Kenji takes everyone back to the dungeon to catch up with Belza's adventurers. Kenji uses the gun to kill several monsters, but the battery drains quickly and begins to drain mana from the environment to recharge, including the magic fibers woven into their clothing and the cloth of Elite Party 3, who is watching over them, leaving everyone almost naked. After being punished by Shia, Kenji agrees to get rid of the gun, only to realize the gun has a stalker girlfriend personality. It threatens to self-destruct and kill everyone as it doesn't want to be lonely anymore. Hearing this, Kenji agrees to keep it on him. Moving on, the home team joins forces with other adventurers made naked by Kenji's pistol. Zombies attack, taking one of the second party members. The home team questions whether they should go after them or not. That said, when they notice Kenji has disappeared, leaving his underpants behind as a clue, the group decides to follow. With the help of Rim's sharp nose picking up Kenji's scent, the group reaches a concealed room where the zombies are used as slave labor to brew potions illegally, kept hypnotized by an enchanted poster of workplace rules. The group uses a spell to blend in with the zombies, so when there is an opening during the fight with the hordes, Ranga swoops in and smashes the poster, returning the zombies to normal. The fellas leave, and the group continues to follow Kenji's scent. On the way, the girls talk about how their lives changed for the better and became more fun since they met the main man. The same man is currently tormenting an undead mage while wearing his gun as underwear. The scuffed overlord explains, hundreds of years ago, his reputation got ruined by a hero that looks like our boy, and as a result, he was forced into dungeon mining until he died of exhaustion. He now haunts the dungeon and brainwashes adventurers to work themselves to death as revenge, and thanks to the talks with Mr. Kenji, the mage decides to take their plans to the surface and make everyone work till they die. However, Wanabe and Kinji then reveal that Raiza's concept of corporate drones is already happening, causing the mage to glow and transform back to its human form, which is a very lovely lady that would have been a great addition to the harem. After that is said and done, Kinji meets a young struggling shop manager in the dungeon, Cindy, who sees him as an entitled customer, as he does try to complain his way to some free goods, but Shia stops him. Hence, Kinji Boy starts performing his manipulation magic and tells the chick if he can fill her shop with paying customers, will she sell him her best dungeon equipment at a massive discount. A deal she can't pass, seeing the state of the shop. The smartest man in Isekai land decides to use the potions made by the zombies to promote the shop. He rebranded the potions, then gave them to the blonde fella and Rim to use in front of explorers in need as a pre-battle nutrient drink, which led the shop to score a massive profit. However, the shop gets shut down by Raizaha due to unethical practices. You see, on top of selling goods that don't do what they market, the potions are addictive since Kinji added a sprinkle of confusion plants. Kinji tries to talk his way around the problem but can't, so he leaves a thankful Cindy to solve her own problems, as he is confident in her abilities. Now at the new level, Rim dreams of a girl with horns crying while Kinji runs from dinosaurs, leading them to early extinction. He also saves maintenance workers who explain the doors to the 5th and 3rd floors are blocked, so they are now stuck on the 4th floor indefinitely, also leaving Belza's bodyguards trapped on the 5th floor, which has only 2 powerful monsters guarding the door to the 6th floor. To process their next move, the group heads to a safe point that isn't too safe, but suddenly dogs attack the still-breathing petroleum. A busty lady arrives with a kid between her arms. Shia jumps to the conclusion that this lady and kid are Kinji's mistress and child, but then the lady reveals herself to be Ant Queen. She has escaped with her colony from earthquakes, along with this adorable horned girl who turns out to be Majin. Queen explains Majin was born after Rim left the dungeon to be its new guardian, but since she's unwell, the dungeon is more dangerous due to both being in sync with each other. So if the dungeon's ecosystem gets fixed, the girl will get better and vice versa. Rin reacts unusually by hunting food for Majin, but Majin reacts violently, which upsets Rim, yet she still tries to make her little sister feel good to no avail. While sitting by her lonesome, Kinji goes to check on her. Rim explains to Kinji that she feels guilty for leaving her domain, which forced the dungeon to create a premature Majin, and by later defeating it, she caused Majin to be too weak to manage the dungeon levels. Hearing this, the main man tells her not to worry anymore as he will fix it. Hence, the next day, Kinji and the others return the 4th floor's ecosystem, while Rim looks after Majin, who slowly starts warming up and accepting Rim. With the 4th floor back to normal, Majin recovers and is given the name Sky by Rim since that was the first thing she was impressed by when she went outside for the first time. Sky suddenly falls seriously ill as the door to the 5th floor opens. 2 monsters multiply into dozens and overwhelm the bodyguards. One sussy fellow though tries to push his soldiers to fight on the brink of death. Luckily, Kinji was there to save the bodyguards while Rim defeats the monsters. The manipulation soon starts as he brings the guy down with a slap and then lifts the guy physically and spiritually, making the guy like him to the point he blushes whenever our boy glances at him. They get a bit touchy and too close before raiding the floor they are on, defeating the guardians and destroying the ruins that keep producing them, making Rim feel better in the process. Soon after, they locate floor 6, where the power source they are looking for is located. Kinji volunteers to go ahead since it might be dangerous, moving everyone's hearts. However, when he reaches the top, the man puts on his famous devilish smile, revealing he secretly scouted ahead with his pistol, which gave him information on a magical artifact Kinji now claims for himself, giving him the power to command all dungeons. The man flexes his newfound power and then leads an army of monster guards above ground. The new dungeon master confronts Belza with enough jewels to clear his debts, quit his job, and laugh at her as he rides his sweet ass to a brighter future. 3 months later, Kinji has turned the dungeon into a theme park with Ranga as his assistant and begins buying other abandoned dungeons. Using his powers, he can manage the dungeon's magic without Rim or Majin, turning them back into profitable mines run by the Ant Queen. Meanwhile, the rival company is having a meeting on how to deal with the rising Dungeon of Black Company, which Kinji crashes just like how he crashed Raiza's profits by flooding the market with cheap demonite and putting Cindy in charge of a magazine-based delivery service on adventuring equipment which, thanks to Wanabe performing demonite research, are cheaper and higher in quality than anything Raizaha sells. He also ends discrimination against monsters by employing them with the same rights as humans and the demi-humans. As a result of all this, Belza becomes an alcoholic and gets tormented by Ranga, who, as her descendant, knows Belza's childhood history. Yet even evil people have their day, and Belza's day came when the demon gods smiled upon her, giving her an idea to get revenge on Kinji using Shia. Kinji gets arrested for crimes he committed before becoming rich, like brainwashing his coworkers into working, using equipment without permission, putting addictive substances in potions, and so on. She managed to get this info by manipulating Shia into testifying against him. Portrayed as a potential threat to humanity, Kinji gets tortured to extract a confession, but he resists it. Shia visits and heals his wounds, having realized Belza manipulated her. Kinji is not mad at her, as he knows she didn't want anyone to be harmed and wanted the best for everyone. You see, Kinji wrote a manual for this kind of emergency, which the Ant Queen shows the group. A month later, at the company elections, Belza is made Raizaha's director, but is shocked when Kinji is suddenly released and made CEO. Wanabe reveals that following Kinji's manual, they purchased 40% of all Raizaha's stocks and convinced the owners of another 15% through the power of Horny to support them, giving the majority ownership of Raizaha to them. Thus, Raizaha gets absorbed into Kinji's company, where he makes Belza work with Ranga to improve their family relationship. Despite his victory and peeing from the top of his new crypt with the wind blowing his way, Kinji finds he is unhappy. Concerned, Ranga reveals that Kinji is from Japan and may be planning to return. The man confirms he was happier chasing a goal than he is now, and that's why he was training his people to take on the company when he's gone. However, Kinji later reveals during his goodbye party, instead of returning to Japan, he plans to expand the company, take over dungeons in other countries, and keep going until he controls the entire world. But before the journey continues, the man, the myth, the legend, heads back to where it all began and picks up the coin that led to millions after. The end.